if you want advice, ask for money. If you want money, ask for advice. Asking people for advice, it puts them in a position of they're helping you. And it's a great way to build a friendship if you ask somebody for a favor.
For today's episode of Land and Everything Else, we're going to team up with BizTape and a conversation with Carter Malloy at the Land Expo. I hope everybody enjoys.
And what's the key problem Acres solves?
Acres makes mapping and data visualization easy for land professionals. And so if you look at the world today, it requires a lot of specialized knowledge, expertise, and technology to run your land business. You could be a home builder, you could be a land broker, but either way, it is very difficult to get best-in-class technology in the hands of business professionals, and that's a problem we're trying to solve.
How do you sell that? Right? How do you help people visualize that?
You find the pain of, I wanted to do
you
that.
You find the pain. There we go.
I wanted to do that thing, and I couldn't because there was no easy button. And obviously, that's perhaps a overplayed trope, but we do try to find the easiest way possible to make our customers successful. So.
Is it easier to sell than a hairless cat?
I think the hairless cat sort of finds its owner. And
okay.
It's inbound versus outbound sales,
Yeah. Different markets. Very niche. Yeah. How did Acres get started?
Yeah, so the origin story of our product Acres, which just lives at acres.com, is 6 years ago. We started a firm called AcreTrader. AcreTrader is focused today still on making farmland investing easy for individual investors. Obviously, there are a lot of barriers to entry on technical information, how do you actually make the investment, and understanding the asset class in general. What we tried to do with AcreTrader was walk people through how you might be able to own a farm and do it in a hassle-free way that's easy to do, and you could do it, invest from your phone, right? So we wanted to make this as easy a process as possible. In the process of helping people become farmland owners for the first time, obviously we were doing a lot of due diligence on the assets themselves, the farms, the timberland, the actual properties and real estate that individuals would be investing in. And what we found is that we were going to 10, 15 different sources for information about land real estate. That could be the county tax assessor. It could be even looking at online auctions for real estate. And we're piecing together this patchwork of disparate data. And what we wanted to do was just find an easier way to streamline all that due diligence and information and put it on a single platform that helps people make decisions in a really fast way at a high level of technological capacity without having to have a high level of maybe technical literacy. And so we want to give those folks who are investing in land a easier way to evaluate and due diligence on the properties that they may be purchasing for the business, which could be for everything from farming to home building to other relevant industries like mining and aggregates and even commercial development.
So you're both co-founders, right? How do you what you're building today, we're here at the Land Investment Expo, one of the only things that's getting me out and about in January, at least in the Midwest. And fantastic time here. You have an awesome booth with great lights, and they're all working. So take me through what you don't just get here overnight. Been here for over 6 years now? So what does that origin look like year one? How do you get this out there? I imagine marketing this, it doesn't sound simple. So how do you get people bought in and get people to want to jump in on this mission with you?
Especially very early days, this is Carter speaking. In the early days of the business, some really great advice I got from a current board member is do things that don't scale. That's like an old adage. It wasn't this person, but it's something that as a technology business founder, especially, it's really counterintuitive. Like you want to make sure everything scales up quickly. And so, especially in the early days of AcreTrader, as we were building out that investment platform, it was one-to-one, right? One-to-one going and finding farms, very, very one-to-one, trying to find investors that wanted to invest in farmland and going and discovering that. So a lot, guerrilla marketing tactics, read all those kinds of books and just anything and everything we could do to get in front of people, and especially in person, something that's not valued as much as it should be, especially post-COVID. That actually sitting down with folks can build a lot of trust, and when they recognize, this is another human being that's representing this the best they can to me.
I would add to that, Carter, that when you're early on in building a product, it's very easy to live within your own echo chamber to an extent of you and the team and everyone who's really, you might say, obsessed with the product you're building.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to see flaws in it when you're building it like that. And it is critically important to get that in front of real users, real customers early on, and hear the things you don't want to hear maybe about that product. Its flaws, how it could be better. And you need to embrace that very early on, and you need to embrace it aggressively. And I think we did that over the years and still do today. But that sort of willingness to lean into constructive feedback, sometimes hurtful feedback, is critical in building a product that's relevant for anyone.
What were you both doing before Acres?
So my career before Acres and AcreTrader, I actually worked in agricultural development. So worked for a great group out of Little Rock, Arkansas called Heifer International, and worked with farmers and farmers cooperatives trying to build sustainable value chains for things from cocoa to coffee beans. And so trying to help raise the income for farmers in 25 different developing countries and make farming a more sustainable business for them.
The opposite of that. So I grew up in a family that's in farming, but spent a dozen years investing in businesses. So a lot of that focused on data businesses and we're working at both an investment bank called Stevens, a great place to work for 7 years, and then 5 years at a long-short equity hedge fund. So different paths. We both share similar passions and ultimately ended up here because, frankly, I'd spent my life evaluating companies. I wanted to build one myself, and I thought it was going to be hard, but I was very wrong as to the magnitude of difficulty of building said business or any business.
Well, what Carter's kind of undersold is this idea that in his previous investing life, data businesses were a lot of what you looked at. And that's what we ended up building in Acres is a data business for land. And I think pretty early on, we as a team, kind of led by Carter's vision, identified that there's a lot of tools and technology if you work in commercial or residential real estate, but the land market is relatively early on in the data business. And so we want to be able to provide that same sort of best-in-class technology for a part of the market that we felt was overlooked and underserviced.
So how many people, like you mentioned at the beginning, people that are interested in getting into farming for the first time? I don't know anyone who's trying to do that except like some influencers who are just like, hey, homesteading looks cool for my Instagram wall. So like, besides that, how many people, honestly, every year are getting into farming?
So there's getting into farming and there's getting into farming, right? Very different things. The interest in agriculture is insanely high. The number of people who want to be involved, again, not necessarily they want to go out and work a combine on the weekends for their passion project, but lots of people do want to be involved with agriculture. It is the number one most respected profession in the United States.
Really?
And consistently across political spectrums, anywhere you look, is the most respected profession. And frankly, all of us, like everyone we meet, almost everyone we meet, it's like has some farmer in their family that is generationally close enough that they're aware of that person.
Yeah.
And even when they're not, like they still had ag in their family, right? Like, okay, maybe your family did shipping for 5 generations, but they were doing farming at some point before that. So it's common. Like the first things we learn as a kid is how to say moo, right? Like it's in all of our blood, and we were all agrarian not so long ago in human history. So the interest is really intense in agriculture and in land as well. How to stick that for folks between exactly the interest and I want to be involved, but I'm not really talking about being a farmer myself.
Yeah. So how do you present this to someone, especially in the early days where you don't have nice booths at conferences, you don't have collateral, you just have your voice, you have yourself, you're doing guerrilla marketing tactics. How do you present this in a way like that in under 30 seconds, they get it? Like, what do you say to help people understand this, wrap their head around it?
Well, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but you start with that sort of innate pain and that pain that a customer or consumer might have that only you believe you can solve. And that's what you have to convince people of. And so in our case, when you're looking at our Acres platform, it was, I want to do that thing. And in this case, that thing is, I want to create useful, visually appealing content that describes and depicts the property that I'm either farming, I'm buying, I'm investing in, you name it. I want to do that without years of specialized training on how to find and manipulate the data I need to make a better decision about this property. And so for us, it's finding that moment where yeah, we too, as users of these products ourselves, Carter and I, we too have felt that way, and we want to solve that problem. And you, back to the earlier point, have to be obsessed about solving that problem.
So technically speaking then, did you first have was it just software, an app? Were you doing this on a phone and showcasing people, a tablet? How are you going around and visually showcasing it you mentioned?
I'm glad you asked that question because we're here at the Land Expo, and we came here not too many years ago, and I distinctly recall doing a very rough demo of our software product, basically a beta of our software product on a coffee table, banquet table over here to a couple potential customers. And so some of it's just getting out there, and as we said earlier, being willing to step into the potential criticism of a very early product and showing it to everyone everywhere. So that's my answer, but Carter may have some more to add.
I maybe stating it differently is a thing that we get a lot wrong as a company, a whole lot. One of the things that we get two things consistently right. People. We really intensely focus on culture and people. We can maybe speak to that later. But we are a culture of intense criticism and feedback.
Yeah.
We're constantly seeking that, especially from our customers. And so early in the product, even before we were doing beta demos, we had design mock-ups. And there's no point in building the thing that you want.
Yep.
Right? Showing it to people and saying, does this solve your problem? And then often they'll say, well, actually, my problem is not that thing I originally stated. It's more acute right here. And so just that constant iteration and feedback process with internal stakeholders, with our customers, with our friends, with our parents, right? Anyone that'll speak to you and give you advice.
Yeah.
We still today as a business seek that out in a very formal, methodical fashion to make sure we're constantly listening and not just saying, please give me feedback, but like asking people, why are you not buying? What is the thing that doesn't work? Specific to this interaction, why is this not the right interaction for you inside of this tool?
Well, and you touched on a word, Carter. You used the word feedback. And one of the things I think we learned early on is that don't ask for feedback, ask for advice, right?
Thank you.
Particularly from customers, sometimes from investors, but definitely ask for advice. And that is it's a more generative question than the concept of feedback. Because it's much easier for you to think about advice in a meaningful and constructive way. Feedback, people are always maybe afraid to hurt your feelings. And advice just is this much more genuine kernel of wisdom. And so anyone listening, don't ask for feedback, ask for advice.
What I like about that too, from a marketing standpoint, you think of feedback forms, how many times do you press skip survey? There's just innately, we're just just tune it out the moment you see that word more often than not. When you ask advice, it automatically sets the tone of we're humbling ourselves. We admit that we don't know everything. And so
very, very right.
I love that.
There's also an old adage, if you want in the fundraising process for business, if you want advice, ask for money. If you want money, ask for advice. And we're pretty intense. Thank you for correcting the verbiage there, Ben. Asking people for advice. It puts them in a position of they're helping you. And it's a great way to build a friendship if you ask somebody for a favor.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you said that because that sort of buy-in, both the literal buy-in, someone's purchasing your product, but that sense that a customer is part of your brand's story, part of your brand's journey, that's a loyal customer. And so if you can find some way, maybe it's a new feature and you say, hey, thanks, John Doe or Jane Doe for giving us that feature advice or suggestion. We've now pushed it to production.
Yeah,
making them feel making them feel that they're part of this. And that's critically important, not just with their dollars, but with their input, their feedback, and their advice.
Something I want to talk to that you've both hit on. Ben, you were talking about data and the importance of that within your business today. Carter, you were talking about people a moment ago. Conversation we had earlier today, you said we have people, physical humans, real people, still all they do is data entry. And I want to highlight that for a second because if you look at the S&P 500, who are the top performing companies? Anyone that's advancing in AI right now. And the way, at least what we do within media production, we have a person there every step of the way. And until something's really well thought through within AI and it's not putting out gobbledygoo that it's putting out right now, we still have people there. And even when it does have something, we're going to just be training our people and how to use tools to better enhance our processes. So when you're talking about this with me this morning, I chuckled because one, that's very aligned with who we are. And you have to have people there every step of the way, and not of, here's this new tool, I can get rid of this, maximize profits. but also that doesn't just come around from like, oh yeah, I like hiring people. I like friends. I like feedback. Something happens along the way that makes people like, no, our people are make us what we are. It's our culture. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, I'll try to break it in a few parts and be brief. Process automation, workflow automation has been going on for a very, very long time. And there have been some periods of extreme acceleration in that throughout the United States. I mean, like we'll use the farm as the example, right? Mechanization and the introduction of the tractor changed the game. And at the time, it was this great threat. Yeah. And instead, it made us all much more productive and helped us feed and grow a huge global population. The same is true with AI. It is a real enabler. It is a great workflow enhancement tool. We all use it internally in a business quite extensively. However, foundational data, it's just like automation on a farm. You still need the farm to exist, despite how much automation you can build on top of that. We view the same thing inside of a business, or inside of our business in particular, is that foundational data cannot be automated. It has to actually come from somewhere and be generated and put into our system. And yeah, the example would be like getting information from a county courthouse can require going to that place physically or having them mail you a CD-ROM. Doesn't matter what type of algorithm you have or how great your LLM is, you can't complete that task without actual humans. And so we invest materially as a business in that foundational data set that's effectively, at least today, impossible to disrupt, right? Because you've just got to have people involved in that process to get quality information into the system. Then certainly we can, and we do today, we have AI built into our tool in certain places to build in enhancements to understanding and building on top of that data. But yeah, we take data and people both very seriously. I'm speaking to the data part. The people part's a different conversation and a longer one, an exciting one. But I'll pause there as we speak about data and see if Ben has anything to add. Or
Well, I would just like to maybe get specific about when we talk about data origination and the problem that we're trying to solve, what does that actually look like? So Carter's alluded to, going and obtaining county records manually. That's certainly painful. But let's talk about land real estate or rural real estate. What are we looking for here? You can start with who owns the property and where it's at. You can then say, has it sold? You might ask, is it financed? You can begin to piece these things together. And then it gets difficult from there. You start asking questions about what crop is growing here. Is it in a floodplain? Are there almond trees planted on the property? How old are those almond trees? In what way are they irrigated? In which irrigation district does it reside? This information exists nowhere at scale. You might find small pockets of rich data here and there, county to county, but we saw this challenge of how do we gather this vast sort of ocean of descriptive information about rural properties, about land, and put it in such a way that is searchable, filterable, and that you can begin to apply some of these tools like artificial intelligence to really pour through that and draw out some insights. But until you originate that core data of what is happening on this property, none of those tools are very effective.
So now take me back through the people side.
So I mentioned earlier, we've gotten a couple of things right along the way, on plenty of major stumbles as well. One of those was that we ask for advice and feedback and criticism, do that mechanically. And so we have real structure in our business to make sure we're consistently doing that with one another. The other is people. And I'm very, very proud of the people I get to go to work with every day. The best way to put that is we are very, very interested in talent density. So we have a offensively long, annoyingly long interview process. Because it's like, you're getting married after the first date. It's kind of a crazy proposition when you think about it. So we really spend time in the dating process, getting to know one another for interviews. And then after that, we have really, really great HR staff that invest heavily in training, onboarding, retention, personal growth for all the folks we work with. And then there's the dark side of that, which is we also have to let people go quite often as well. And when we let somebody go, that's because we made a mistake. Because we didn't interview well enough, because we didn't understand that this person's perfectly brilliant and capable, we put them in the wrong seat, or whatever that reason for failure may have been. So by doing that, by controlling really well on the front end and being very decisive very quickly on the back end, we're able to maintain a really, really great group of friends. And we're weird, right? Like, we're a lot of different types of folks. We look for culture additive, not just I want to be best friends, but we want to find folks that are additive to our culture. So to summarize that, we care most. I spend more time with this man right here than I do my own children on an actual hours basis.
Yeah.
And so it's really important to me that we get along and that we are intensely invested in what we're doing together and that we're having a great time along the way. And we share that feeling with everyone we work with today. And I can say that like from Ben and I to the amazing interns on our team, like we are really, really proud of the folks we work with.
Well, and perhaps that's, for the listeners, maybe one of those hot takes about starting and managing your company is that sort of there's this movement against having overly difficult job application processes. We want to make it as quick as possible, as easy as possible. I would encourage people to embrace the opposite. Make it difficult, not sort of in a malicious way, but in a way that you both feel like you're making the right decision when they decide to work for you and you decide to employ them. And so I think don't be afraid to, even despite the noise, don't be afraid to take the time that you need to make the right decision.
The people make up the numbers with your data, right? It's the people first approach. And I love that. Starting this business myself, when I went all in like last year in September, I thought this would be pretty simple because, I know how to make podcasts, but I didn't know how to hire. I didn't know anything about operations. I didn't know anything about like actually making employees happy. Like, you do this job and then everything's fine. And no, it's never that simple. There's a variety of factors that come into play with like attracting and retaining talent. And especially, it's in the beginning, everything feels personal and hard. And so take me through now, what are a couple of things you look for when hiring someone in this long process you talked about? When like there's a few things that stand out, what are some of those things?
Well, before you answer the question, Carter, I'm actually going to maybe provide a framework for this conversation or this question, which is your business is a living organism, and the answer to that question is going to change over time, especially as the business grows. And so you might have a really great set of rules, guidelines for building and assembling your team when you're under 20 employees. But I can guarantee that will be different when you surpass 50 or 100. There are no hard counts of employees where it becomes different or more challenging, but you need to be cognizant of the fact that what works early is not necessarily what will work later on.
Yeah.
That's well said. And so, but the tactical, that is the correct answer, a tactical today view, and one that we've maintained, at least this, while the technical part of the interview has changed and evolved, some of the underlying characteristics we look for have always been there. So the table stakes are, got to be brilliant, you got to be willing to work really hard. And that is like absolute table stakes, and otherwise there's no conversation to be had. Then we're looking for folks that are creative. We are looking for folks that are of great character. So like they've got to be good human beings. If there's a moment of doubt, a moment of mistrust, we're done. And we've actually had to. It seems like one of those duh, but you actually sometimes see those little flare-ups, and you convince yourself, no, they're probably a good person. They didn't mean to mislead me. But if you feel like they may have misled you in an interview process, you're done. And then incredibly importantly is curiosity. If there's really one thing that I can boil down, assuming we get the table stakes right, that Ben and I could both boil down the successful partnerships we've had at work over the years, it is people that are intensely curious. And so in our long interview process, we actually leave a lot of space for the employee to get to know us. And we say, come ask us hard questions. And it's amazing, actually, how many people can't. How many people aren't like, you're a very curious person. That's why you're good at your job. You ask good questions. That's not necessarily natural to a lot of folks. And we want people that go dig to the bottom of Wikipedia regularly, right? We want people who have weird hobbies and go get into things, but they're intense about them. They're intentional about them. And they consistently ask questions because that means that they're going to learn, they're going to grow. And especially in an early stage business, we're not given instruction sets, to a T of how to do your business every day. We trust that if you're bright and you're curious and you're hardworking, that we'll help, provide the beacon and the boundaries, but you can figure out most of this on your own and build as you go.
So you go to events, you seek feedback one-on-one with people, you're getting responses, you're pouring a lot into people who are in turn, there's this relationship where you're expecting vice versa. They're going to pour a lot into you and they're going to work hard and do that and stay curious. Okay, you have that. But now we're looking at your KPIs, things that set you apart. now you understand, well, this is what people are saying about us. This is what our team is saying about us. I think we know who we are. How did you find what is the one thing that really does set you apart from your competition? And B, how'd you go about finding out what that thing is?
We may have different answers on this. I'm excited to hear yours, Ben. Mine is, well, and you have to kind of break the organization apart, right? There's go-to-market strategy, there's product strategy, there's ops and HR. And again, like the unfortunate blunt answer is people set us apart from everything, because I trust the people I work with to build or go to product, to build the best possible product. And today our product is easy to use, it's fast, and it's a great experience front to back, because the people working in product are not just pulling their tickets out of GitHub and saying, oh, I must go build this thing and that thing today because I've been told to do so, but because they understand what our customer is looking for, and they're building something highly effective every day. So
Yeah.
it's a really meaningful differentiator to have, again, that type of creative and curious person behind the scenes helping to build what we take to market.
Let's see. My answer to what sets us apart is perhaps a intersection of people and product, which Carter touched on, which is customer service, customer success. And it's this idea that we're here. We're going to both call you and you're going to call us, and we're going to be available. Kind of goes back to that idea of seeking that input and advice. But if you don't have good customer service, both on day 0 and day, 1,000, you will not keep those customers you earn, no matter how good your product is. And so I would say customer service is one of the things that sets us apart.
I'm assuming if you're expecting your team, which, by the way, how large are you now?
In the
Roughly.
70s.
Okay, very cool. Well, first off, congrats on that. I'm assuming if you're expecting about 70-ish people to stay curious, you're also staying curious yourselves. We already talked about it. There's a lot of changes to AI. We don't talk about all those, but also we have a new president coming in soon. By the time that this episode airs, Donald Trump will be the president of the United States, Lord willing. So all these things are moving. Changes are coming and rapidly. And when you work in data, when you work in technology, it's disrupt or be disrupted. What are you looking forward to and you're excited about, and what areas of growth do you see for Acres in the next 5 years they're going to be pressing into?
So Ben alluded to this earlier, but putting it simply, acres.com is built, it's maps and data for land people, right? If you're in the industry of land or you're interested in land, we have built a tool that is easy for you to use and you can immediately dive into and begin to find value. The thing that we are finding really differentiates us today is data quality. At the end of the day, we put really great information in the system. And then also the ability to interplay with that. This is not a clunky thing you need a degree to use. It's very simple to interact with information. And then importantly, I think we as a company and as a people within a company, at the end of the day, self-awareness is the only real sustainable competitive advantage. So we focus intensely on, again, that advice, that customer feedback, and knowing our own weaknesses. And because we lose some too, right? Like, we're not just taking over the world. There's a lot of really great ways that people can solve their own business problems.
Yeah.
And so we have to continuously be aware of how we can get better so we can focus in on those areas more. As painful as it is to hear sometimes.
Well, you asked us what we're excited about. I think for me, obviously, we're here once again at the Land Expo. Our product, Acres, helps individuals value and understand land. Now, when you zoom all the way out, most people may think of land as farmland, and that's mostly correct in the United States. But what's exciting, coming sort of now in this moment and into the future, are all the other uses for land that are really unexpected. A couple years ago, it was wind energy. Then we found a sort of wave of solar development. Here lately, it's data centers and new home construction. There are immense pressures on land resources in the United States. I think the average person might walk out and say, well, there's ample land all around me. Just go out into a field a couple miles outside of town, and you could see that. But there are certain characteristics of properties that are required for all these land uses, whether it be the availability of fiber optic connection, power resources, zoning, and all that information obviously we provide in our application. But there is a huge demand and a huge pressure on land in the United States. And some of that's good, right? We're innovating, we're building homes. These things are all necessary for a productive economy. But when we really look up, I'm always asking the question, what is that next land use that we didn't anticipate? And so I think for anyone here, either listening to the podcast or at the event, it's a really important question of how do we use land and what will be that next thing that puts pressure on our most important resource in the United States, which is land.
People don't often think, at least I don't often think, of land and innovation in the same sentence. And you come here to Land Investment Expo, and well, we go to a lot of conferences in finance. And it's interesting. Most of the folks I talk to don't even know this event exists. And then you come here and you start talking with folks who own thousands of acres. And you're like, oh, these are like movers and shakers that actually have a ripple effect on our global economy, things that are happening here. So I really could spend 2 or 3 hours with like every guest who comes on the show. I don't know if the listeners want that. I definitely know our guests don't want to look at me that long. So I will close here with one last question. This is called the Biz Tape. And, you know, if you know what a cassette is, audience, if you don't, well, then I'm sorry. Like that's just sad to me. But anyway, plays music. So if your life was on a cassette and there was a song that made up every area of your life, when all this is said and done, you get to pick the song that you hope would best define your career. And all the work you did, what song are you going with?
Well, so this is a very difficult question. Carter is the musician among the two of us, so probably has a far more elegant answer than I do. Carter, what do you have?
What do you play, by the way?
I had my butt kicked last week at work. I'm tired. So I'm Still Standing by Elton John.
Nice.
I play guitar and drums primarily, but I produce music as well quite a bit. So
very cool.
Fun fact, if you ever get a chance, look up magnetic tape, the actual tape inside of a cassette. It's pretty fascinating how you orient magnetic fields in there to get audio off of it. It's a really cool piece of technology they invented a long time ago now.
And it looks cool.
Worth a quick look.
Yeah.
Ben listens to all kinds of music. He listens to country and Western. So
Okay. I was trying to think about something that has to do with land and technology, but I don't think that song's been written yet. So I think you're just going to have to like create a jingle for yourselves and then come back and like, this is my song.
Yeah, can we write the jingle for the pod?
I did have that last week. I had someone who's like, on the side, I'm a musician. I would pick this song that I wrote. And I was like, that's probably the greatest answer I'm going to get on this show. So
fun fact for our early, explainer videos on the website, I made the jingle music in the background so we didn't want to pay royalties. We're trying to save money. And the purpose is to make it as boring as possible so people don't pay attention to the music in the background. That was a terrible exercise. It's the low of my musical career for sure.
Yeah, it just mind-numbing. Well, this is awesome. Thank you both so much for coming on. For folks who are listening today and they want to go follow Acres, they want to follow you, where do they go?
Acres.com. You can learn a lot about our business there. Shoot us an email. Call us anytime. Our phone number, our email address is on there. Ben and I are on LinkedIn as well. So we'd love to visit with you.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us today.
Yes, Ben, Carter, this has been awesome.
Thanks.
And for the listener who pulled up a chair and joined us today, we're at the Land Investment Expo. If you want to learn more information about it, go check it out. Links are in the description. We'll be here again next year probably, so go sign up for that. You don't need to have any more FOMO. Come join us. And be sure to subscribe to the Biz Tape. I don't know who we're talking to next week. All I know it's going to be good, so you're going to want to subscribe so you don't miss it. And with that, we'll see you next time.